Ooh, a little bit of burping going on there. Excuse me, guys. Hiccup. Let's come back again. Oof. Maybe I need to drink some water. Let me grab some water, guys. Turn these lights off. Save that electricity bill. Make sure that we got the fucking I should stop guessing. Some sound check on here. Make sure everything is okay.
Sound
Get
check
so
on here.
excited.
Make sure.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Sound check
Perfect,
on
guys.
here. Make sure. Yeah.
Well, it's like echoing across. Well, crazy. Okay, guys. So welcome back. Now we're gonna be looking at chapter 5. Just a portion. So it's taking responsibility for our feelings. So another very, very important lesson: taking responsibility for our feelings. People are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them. Epictetus. Hearing a negative message. 4 options. The third component of NVC entails the acknowledgement of the root of our feelings. Wait a minute. That's not what I was about to read. Sorry, guys. I really skipped on the wrong place. I was going to not start at the beginning of that chapter. That is the beginning, but I'm going to go skip ahead. Oh, excuse me, guys. So this is on page 52, in case you're following along. You can't even see that there, 52. So at the bottom here, the needs at the root of feelings, judgments, criticism, diagnoses, and interpretations of others are all alienated expressions of our needs. If someone says, "You never understand me," they are really telling us that they need to be that their need to be understood is not being fulfilled. If a wife says, "You've been working very late this week," you love your work more than you love me, she's saying that her need for intimacy is not being met. Judgments of others are alienated expressions of our own needs. Some bubbles in the side. When we express our needs, when we express our needs indirectly through the use of evaluations, interpretations, and images, others are likely to hear criticism. And when people hear anything that sounds like criticism, they tend to invest their energy in self-defense or counterattack. If we wish for a compassionate response from others, it is self-defeating to express our needs by interpreting or diagnosing their behavior. Instead, the more directly we can connect our feelings to our needs, the easier it is for others to respond to us compassionately. Unfortunately, most of us have never been taught to think in terms of our needs. We are accustomed to think about what's wrong with other people when our needs aren't being fulfilled. Thus, if we want coats to be hung up in the closet, we may characterize our children as being lazy for leaving them on the couch. Or we may interpret our coworkers as irresponsible when they don't go about their task in the way that we would prefer them to. I was once invited to South Carolina to mediate between some landowners and migrant farm workers whose conflict had grown increasingly hostile and violent. I began the meeting by asking these 2 questions. What is it that you what is it that you are each needing? And what would you like to request of the other person? And what would you like to request of the other in relation to those needs? The problem is that these people are racist, shouted the farm worker. The problem is that these people don't respect the law and order, shouted the landowner even more loudly. As is often the case, these groups were more skilled in analyzing the perceived wrongness of others than clearly expressing their own needs. In a comparable situation, I once met with a group of Israelis and Palestinians who wanted to establish a mutual trust, the mutual trust necessary to bring peace between their homelands. I opened the session with the same question. What is it that you are needing, and what would you like to request from one another in relation to those needs? Instead of directly stating his needs, a Palestinian, Mukhtar, who is like a village mayor, answered, "You people are acting like a bunch of N-words," and not the American one. A statement like that is not likely to get the cooperation of a group of Israelis. Almost immediately, an Israeli woman jumped up and countered, Mukhtar, that was a totally insensitive thing for you to say. Here were people who had come together to build trust and harmony, but after only one interchange, matters were worse than before they began. This happens often when people are used to analyzing and blaming one another rather than clearly expressing what they need. In this case, the woman could have responded to the Mukhtar in terms of her own needs and requests by saying, for example, I am needing more respect in our dialogue. Instead of telling us how you think we are acting, would you tell us what it is we are doing that you find disturbing? It has been my experience over and over again that from the moment people began talking about what they need rather than what's wrong with one another, the possibility of finding ways to meet everyone's needs is greatly increased. The following are some basics. The following are some of the basic human needs we all share: autonomy, to choose one's dreams, goals, values, to choose one's plan for fulfilling one's dreams, goals, and values; integrity, authenticity, creativity, meaning, and self worth; celebration, to celebrate the creation of life and dreams fulfilled, to celebrate losses, loved ones, dreams, etc. Interdependence, acceptance, appreciation, closeness, community, consideration, contribution to the enrichment of life, to exercise one's power by giving that which contributes to life. Interdependence, continued emotional safety, empathy, honesty, the empowering honesty that enables us to learn from our limitations. Love, reassurance, respect, support, trust, understanding, warmth, play, fun, and laughter; spiritual communion, rather; beauty, harmony, inspiration, order, and peace; physical nurturance, air, food, movement, exercise, protection from life-threatening forms of life, virus, bacteria, insects, predatory animals, excess; rest, sexual expression, shelter, touch, and water. Thanks, guys. This is really helping us to get a better understanding or begin to understand how our feelings are really expressions of our needs. And those definitions of our needs, that authentic self, is the expression of God through us, as we keep discussing, right? Our feelings, that's the spiritual navigation system, that Brian Withers noted. So when you play piano, for example, I have a piano here. When I play and I feel so happy. I feel so much energy. I feel happy. I'm smiling. I feel a sense of love and peace and joy, expansion. So this is my inner compass, the God within me, the God wisdom, the universe within me, telling me that this is for me, that I'm supposed to be a piano player. Now, for example, when I'm cooking in the kitchen, and I'm making a meal and I'm like, oh my God, this is really getting on my nerves. And I'm sitting there cutting the onions and I'm like, this is really getting on my nerves, and mixing. Like, for me, that doesn't naturally inspire the same feelings as playing the piano. Like, I know I have to cook because cooking is like required to live, right? But I don't get the same pleasure out of playing the piano, out of cooking, that I get out of playing piano. Some people have the opposite, right? They love cooking. Like, some people, when they're cooking, they're like fantasizing about all the different flavors, tastes. Like, they're thinking about, the recipe. How should they twist this to get that? Some people really enjoy that, and maybe I haven't cooked enough. I am working on that. It's a skill that I need to develop. And maybe I haven't gotten to that place where I enjoy it yet, but I haven't really started enjoying that process. But playing the piano is something that I've always enjoyed my entire life. Music in general is something that I've enjoyed my entire life. And so that tells you who you are. That allows you to understand who you are, your definition of yourself. That's how you know when you are in flow. Whatever you're doing and it gives you positive energy, you know that you're in flow. All right. Positive energy or positive emotion. That's how you know when you're in flow. If you're doing something and it's causing a drain and you don't enjoy it, then that's saying that's not your thing. Right. Okay. That's where we're going. And your needs are at the core of all your feelings. One of the core needs: we are here to live, to love, and to create. Right? We're supposed to create, and our creations are supposed to be helping each other. That's why we're supposed to be here. Each one of us is unique. Each one of us has a creative capacity or inclination that is designed to create or produce something that is beneficial for others. So it's like the ikigai, something that the world needs, something that I enjoy doing, something that pays me. Right? So the intersection of these things is like the Japanese definition of happiness. I think that there's one other pillar that I forgot. But in any case, you get the idea, right? And so we all have a natural need to express ourselves and to achieve a positive state of health, which requires us to be in a place of happiness, ease, reduce stress, reduce negative emotion. That is like the optimal zone of human functioning, right? Not mentally only, but emotionally, for your physical body, it's critical. And so it also allows us to not only understand who we are, but to identify our needs, which are the definition of who we are. So if I know I'm someone I need to practice piano, you know, um, that's how I can find out my needs based on who I am authentically, right? And that's all coming from the emotions that are coming from my inner navigational system. So it's all connected, that's basically what I'm trying to communicate to you in this a section right here of this book. I think this is still on chapter 5, right? Yeah, chapter 5, taking responsibility for your feelings. It's not just the negative feelings, it's also the good ones because they are really your navigation system for life. That should tell you where to go. Like if you're talking to your mother and that person keeps lying to you and you feel yourself getting pissed off, that's your boundary telling you that you don't need that. That is a need that is not being met. And so your response to your mother's continued lies causes anger, and that anger rising within you tells you or is a signal to you that a boundary has been crossed and that you no longer feel safe. And you're also having that because you don't feel safe because one of your needs is for safety. And that parent is refusing to meet your need for safety. And then it becomes your responsibility to make the appropriate action and to cut that person off. This is just your mother, but it can be whoever it is, right? It can be your coworker, your boss, your partner, your brother, your sister. It can be anyone. It doesn't matter. I just used that one example because many people who are in the process of reparenting, that's something that's very triggering. That's one of them that's very triggering, the relationship with the mother, because many people have mother wounds who are in the process of reparenting. And it can be a very, very, very tricky and painful um, place to be at, right? And so, Jesus Christ, there was a really good, something just came to me. And I think there was a really good example. And I think it also I need to work this, part of this and me doing these recordings is to work on how I'm speaking and communicating because I need to uh, improve. I really want to improve the way I'm communicating and speaking, reading live. So give me some time. I'm getting better. If you check out the first episode, you will already see we've made some progress. But I want to really become more aware of when I'm speaking. I don't want to speak with so much doubt. Oh, I think I'm doing this. I'm really trying to catch myself. So sometimes you will see me, calling that out because I think you are also most likely trying to learn how to correct your speaking. If you're in the process of reparenting, how to catch and reduce the signals of insecurity that you're giving so you can focus on communicating clearly and directly, concisely, so that you come across more confident. This is something that I'm growing in. I'm obviously not a master at that yet. And so as I'm doing these videos, that's one of the main reasons. How can I um, improve my speaking so that it's more engaging, so that I'm not monotone all the time, so that it's just more fun, more fluid, so that I can kind of relax and just open myself up. This is the kind of idea of why I'm doing these readings. In addition to sharing this excellent text, it's selfishly to help me practice getting better at speaking and to learn to communicate more effectively and clearly. So since you guys are also on this journey with me and probably have some of the same needs in terms of developmental needs that I do, skill development needs that I do, I will be pointing that out while I'm speaking. So you can also catch me and think, oh, yeah, because maybe you didn't notice that I was speaking that way. So when I'm correcting myself as I'm speaking to you, it will also help you to be able to catch yourself and to understand, learn from the error, right? Or the habit that you want to change, for example, not necessarily the error. And so this is a really good meeting. I'm not reading. I'm not. I don't think I'm going to continue on from there. I will do a different one. Um, let's see. How long is this one? Yeah, the next one. Oof, Jesus Christ. This one is very heavy. So the next two sections, the pain of expressing our needs versus the pain of not expressing our needs. And then the next one after that is from emotional slavery to emotional liberation. Okay, so that's also going to be very interesting. Maybe I will come back and read that tomorrow. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it there. And Then we'll come back tomorrow and read these two sections. So I hope you guys are enjoying this text. Again, it's a great, great book if you're learning communication skills. I mean, there are so many different kind of communication skills to learn. This is just one angle on communication skills, but it's a very important one, especially if you're in the ACA program, you're working on the flip side of the laundry list. It's important to um, you know moderate yourself. Come back to kind of like a center. It's so important. And so, yeah, thanks again, guys. That's it for tonight. For this book, anyway. I might do one more short reading, but we're going to see how I feel after I have some dinner. So, thanks again for being here. Thanks for all your support. I really appreciate your subscribing, your comments, your sharing the project. I really appreciate you reaching out and engaging and supporting me and everyone else who is in this journey. Every time you make a comment on a post, on a video, on a short or something, and you're giving other people the option to read your feedback or your download or your learning, we're able to share that in this community. That's the whole point. Not just for me to like mass produce as much content, but really to make a place where people can come together, have a consistent positive messages, and then encourage each other, via the comments and sharing. That's how we grow. That's how we come together and reparenting and really start creating our own community, fellow travelers who are also in the process of reparenting, to support each other, because that support will help us make progress more quickly and simply more effectively. And so, thanks again for being here, and I will see you guys again soon. Take care, and hope you have a great beginning of the week.